The day my gut stopped letting things slide didn't come with fireworks or a smoking gun. It came with small, boring details that wouldn't shut up. By the time Kelly's eyes stopped matching her words, I already knew I was done ignoring what I saw. I've always trusted what I see more than what people say. That's not paranoia, it's survival. Words are easy, patterns aren't. With Kelly, that instinct used to make me feel lucky. I could read her mood in how she set her mug down, how long she lingered before grabbing her keys. For almost 10 years, I told myself that knowing her that well meant I'd never be blindsided. Then the small things started to move. Her hug went first. It was still there, technically, arms around my neck, chin on my shoulder, but the weight was wrong. She felt like someone pausing, not someone arriving. After a while, the hugs turned into quick taps on the back. Like I was a coworker she didn't want to offend. Conversations shrank next. I'd ask how work was. I used to get stories. The annoying client, the office politics, the bad coffee. Now it was busy or same old or you don't want to hear about that. Vague, short, no color. Like she was talking through a locked door. Her laugh left the room after that. It moved from our couch to the small glowing rectangle in her hand. She'd sit right next to me, scrolling, screen tilted away, smiling at something I wasn't invited to. When I'd ask, she'd shrug. Memes, she'd say. Nothing. But nothing makes you smirk and bite your lip like that. Then came the late meetings. They didn't start with drama. Running a little over, I'll be home by 9. 9 became 10. 10 slid into don't wait up. The rare happy hours turned into last-minute things she couldn't get out of. New names got dropped as excuses, clients I'd never heard of, projects that somehow never left a paper trail on her actual calendar. The wardrobe upgraded with her schedule. Perfume that used to come out on anniversaries started getting sprayed on Tuesday mornings. Dresses that hugged a little tighter, heels a little higher. She'd ask, "How do I look?" And I'd say, "Good." She'd hold my eyes for a second too long, like she needed to check if I was buying the story or just signing for the package. I didn't accuse her. I didn't go through her phone, didn't yell, didn't do the dramatic movie scene. I know how this works for men. Raise your voice once and suddenly you're scary, controlling, emotionally abusive. It doesn't take much for the cheater to become the victim and the husband to become the villain. So I did the one thing I knew I could live with. I watched. I paid attention to timestamps, to makeup that didn't match the casual Friday she claimed it was, to the way she kept her phone face down like it might explode if I saw it light up. I logged it all in my head, not out of obsession, but out of preparation, because my gut had stopped letting things slide. And if this marriage was going to crack, it wasn't going to be because I imagined shadows. It was going to be because I finally turned on the light and looked at what was really standing there. There's a line every man hopes he never has to cross. For me, it was the moment I sat at my kitchen table, stared at my phone, and admitted I needed a stranger to tell me what my own wife was doing when she said she was stuck at the office. I found the investigator through a friend of a friend. No billboard, no website, just a name and a number, Harris. I called on a Tuesday afternoon, hands steady, voice calm. If you'd heard me, you'd think I was booking a plumber. He picked up on the second ring. "This is Harris." "My name's Jason," I said. "I need someone to follow." No hesitation, no moral lecture. Just a quiet pause and a pen scratching on paper somewhere on his end. "Wife?" he finally asked. "Yeah." "Name, workplace, routine. Tell me what you know." I laid it out. The late meetings, the sudden happy hours, the new clothes, the boss who texted at 11 p.m. about deliverables. He didn't gasp, didn't sympathize, didn't share his own story. He just listened like this was another job. When I was done, he said, "Give me 2 weeks. You'll have what you need." That was it. No promises of revenge, no dramatic lines. Just a deadline. Those 2 weeks were the longest, quietest war I've ever lived through. On the outside, I played my role. I made coffee like always, 2 mugs, hers a little sweeter. I took out the trash Thursday nights, wheeled the bin to the curb, waved at neighbors who had no idea my life was on fire in slow motion. I lay next to her in bed while she scrolled, phone lighting up her face, and listened to her sigh like she was exhausted from holding the world together. Inside my chest, everything vibrated. Not panic, more like a constant low-grade hum. An engine idling. I noticed everything now. The dresses got tighter. The makeup got heavier on client meeting days. She started switching purses more often, like she was moving items between worlds. Her phone might as well have been handcuffed to her. She took it to the bathroom, to the laundry room, to the backyard. Once, her screen lit up while she was in the shower. I was close enough to see it, far enough to pretend I didn't. Name: Mark R. Message preview: last night. The rest vanished when the screen dimmed. I didn't touch it. I didn't need to. Curiosity wasn't the point anymore. Confirmation was. I wasn't going to give her the easy out of calling me insecure or invasive. If this marriage was going to die, it was going to die under the weight of facts, not because I lost control first. At night, she'd roll away from me, mumble something about being tired. I'd stare at the ceiling and think about a man I'd never met following my wife's car through traffic, watching her walk into places she'd never mentioned to me. 2 weeks, Harris had said. I didn't know what I'd do with the truth when it arrived. But I knew this. Whatever was coming, I'd rather face it standing up with my eyes open than keep sleeping next to a lie pretending it was love. Harris picked a place that felt like it didn't want to be remembered. A diner off the highway with bad lighting and coffee that tasted burned no matter how much sugar you dumped in it. I got there early, sat in a corner booth, and watched the door like I was waiting on a verdict. He walked in 10 minutes late, no apology, no rush. Just a man who'd done this too many times. He slid into the seat across from me, set a worn brown envelope on the table between us, then folded his hands. Everything you asked for is in there, he said. Dates, times, locations, photos, reports in the back. My eyes went to the envelope. My hands stayed flat on the table. Before I open this, I asked, I need to know. Are you guessing, or are you sure? He held my stare. I don't guess, he said. If it's in there, it happened. I opened it. The first photo was Kelly walking out of a hotel I'd never seen before, hair a little messy, wearing the same dress she'd left the house in, only now with her heels in her hand. Next to her, Mark Reynolds, her boss, the same guy who'd shaken my hand in my kitchen and told me I was a lucky man. The next picture was them holding hands in the parking lot. Another one, them kissing against his car. Different nights, same hotel, same pattern. The timestamps lined up perfectly with every launch event and late meeting she'd sworn she couldn't miss. By the fourth photo, I stopped feeling anything. It was like reading someone else's case file. I flipped to the written report. Harris's notes were clean, clinical. No drama, just locations, times, and cross-references to her supposed schedule. Not a single excuse she'd given me in the last month survived the ink on those pages. I closed the folder and sat there, letting the truth harden. From that moment on, I knew one thing with absolute clarity. No matter what came out of her mouth next, I would never again see my wife without seeing these images laid over her face. The night I decided to act was quiet. No argument, no breaking point. Just me at the edge of the bed, staring at the folder on my nightstand, realizing I was done sleeping next to someone I couldn't respect. I waited until she left for work. Then I got up, showered, dressed, and pulled the suitcases from the closet. Hers, not mine. I opened her drawers and packed like a stranger doing inventory. Work clothes, casual clothes, toiletries. I didn't throw anything, didn't tear anything. I folded every piece the way I used to when we went on trips together. Same motions, different destinations. By the time I was finished, 3 suitcases stood by the front door. I set the brown envelope on the kitchen table right in the center. Then I sat down and waited. Her keys in the lock sounded exactly the same as they always had. Funny how your life can be ending and the house still sounds normal. She walked in, dropped her bag, kicked off her shoes. Long day, she called out, voice carrying that fake exhaustion she'd been practicing. I'm starving. She stepped into the kitchen and saw me at the table. Her eyes flicked to the envelope. What's that? She asked. I didn't answer. I just nudged it toward her. She opened it. The first photo slid halfway out. I watched the moment her fingers started to shake. She flipped through them too fast, like speed could change what she was seeing. "These are fake," she said immediately. This is Photoshop. Someone's messing with." I raised an eyebrow. "Timestamps, license plates, hotel logs," I said, voice steady. "How many people had to conspire to fake your mouth on his in that parking lot?" Color drained from her face. The script shifted. Jason, listen, it's not what it looks like. I was just confused, and it only happened a couple times, and we were drinking, and I was going to tell you, I swear I was going to." The lies came out tripping over each other. Affairs, timelines, intentions, all rewritten in under a minute. Tears, gasps, half-formed apologies. She dropped to her knees, grabbed my leg like a lifeline, sobbing, promising therapy, church, quitting her job, anything. I stood up. Her hands slipped off my leg. I walked past her, down the hallway, and opened the front door. The night air rolled in. I stepped aside and let her see the suitcases lined up against the wall. "That's your explanation," I said quietly. "That's your second chance. That's everything I owe you." She stared at the bags, then at me, eyes wide, makeup streaked, breathing hard like she'd just run into a brick wall she didn't know was there. "Jason, please," she whispered. "Don't do this. We can fix it. We can." I didn't yell. I didn't call her names. I didn't argue about what she'd already chosen. I just held the door open and waited. Eventually, she understood. She stood up on shaky legs, grabbed the handle of the first suitcase, and rolled her own betrayal out of my house. I didn't see where she went that night. I didn't follow her car, didn't check the tracker, didn't care. Once those bags crossed the threshold, she became someone else's problem. Later, I found out she did exactly what I should have expected. She drove straight to the only place on earth where she had never once been wrong, her mother's house. Linda Carter's place was a museum of denial. I'd spent years watching it operate. Broken curfews, the teacher was unfair. Failed classes, the grading was biased. Bad relationships, the guys were intimidated by how special Kelly was. I used to think it was just a mom defending her kid. Turns out it was training. I heard about Kelly's arrival through the grapevine. Small town, big mouths. She showed up sobbing, dragging those same suitcases, spinning a story where I was cold, cruel. Kicked her out with no warning. No mention of hotel parking lots, no mark, no brown envelope. Linda did what Linda always does. She wrapped her in outrage. "No man has the right to throw his wife out," she supposedly said. "Marriage is about forgiveness. He can't just decide it's over." She didn't call to ask what happened. She called to judge the verdict. My phone rang the next day. I saw her name and knew exactly how it was going to go. I answered anyway. "Jason," she started, voice already sharp. "I just heard what you did to Kelly. You threw her out? After everything she's done for you? How could you?" "She cheated," I said, cutting straight through it. "I have proof." There was a pause. Not a shock calculation. "Well, people make mistakes," she said. "You don't just destroy a marriage over one bad choice. She's been under a lot of stress, and you can be very distant sometimes, and honestly, you know how men at work can be." I could hear it clearly. The machine starting up. Turn Kelly into the wounded bird. Turn me into the storm. "I'm not on trial here, Linda," I said. "Your daughter made a choice. Multiple times. With her boss. In hotels. On company time." "You're exaggerating," she snapped. "You're a man, you don't understand how these situations can be complicated. She told me you've been cold. Checked out." "I was faithful," I said. "She wasn't. That's the whole complication." She kept going, trying to negotiate reality. Asking if I'd consider taking Kelly back. Suggesting counseling. Saying 10 years of marriage can't just be thrown away like trash. I listened until I'd heard enough. "Linda," I said, finally, voice calm. "You've spent her whole life protecting her from consequences. I'm not doing that. Not now. Not ever again." On the other end, she huffed, muttered something about me being heartless, and hung up. That was the moment it clicked fully into place for me. Kelly wasn't just running from what she'd done. She was running back to the one place that would tell her it wasn't really her fault. And that's exactly where she stayed while the calls, the texts, and the surprise appearances at my job started. Less about getting me back, more about clawing at the life she thought she could keep without ever owning what she'd done to it. The house was quiet the day it happened. I was at work, halfway through an email, when my phone buzzed with a notification from the security system. Motion detected, living room, middle of the day. I checked the live feed. There she was, Kelly, climbing awkwardly through the defective living room window we always said we'd get fixed and never did. The same window the alarm company had flagged, the one I'd finally put a sensor on after she left. She slipped inside like a burglar who still thought she had a key to the past. I watched her on my phone as she stood in the middle of the room, looking around like a ghost in someone else's house. Every photo of us was gone. Walls she used to pick colors for were bare or repainted. Furniture was moved. New blankets, new frames, new small details that said one thing clearly. This life had been reorganized without her. She started walking, slow at first. Kitchen, hallway, bedroom. Her face changed with every room, like she was taking inventory of what had been erased. Then something in her snapped. It started with a picture frame I'd left on purpose. One of me alone on a hiking trail, taken after she was already gone. She grabbed it and threw it against the wall. Glass exploded. She flinched, then did it again with another object. And another. Within minutes, the house turned into a tantrum. She pulled plates from the cabinets and smashed them on the floor like she was trying to erase every dinner we'd ever had. She tore cushions, flipped chairs, yanked drawers out and dumped them. In the garden cam, I watched her storm outside, grab flowers by the stems, and rip them out of the soil, dirt smearing up her arms. Like wrecking the shell of our marriage could undo the choices that killed it. I didn't get in my car. I didn't call her. I didn't rush over to de-escalate. That part of me was done. I called the police. "Someone is in my house without permission," I said. "I have live footage. I'll send it now." I forwarded the clips, gave them the address, confirmed she didn't live there anymore, confirmed the restraining language in the separation paperwork. Then I sat at my desk and watched. Patrol cars pulled up on the cameras. 2 officers headed to the front door, another toward the back. They came in to find her in the middle of the wreckage, breathing hard, hair wild, surrounded by broken glass and torn fabric like a storm that had run out of sky. They talked. She waved her arms, pointed at things, at the walls, at nothing. Eventually, the handcuffs came out. Trespassing, vandalism, property damage. They walked her out past the same doorstep where she'd rolled her suitcases away from me. This time, there was no envelope, no begging, no second chance. The footage didn't stay private for long. Neighborhood pages, local chats, clips passed around with captions and laughing emojis. People love a meltdown, especially when it isn't theirs. By the time the dust settled, my house looked like a crime scene. But for the first time since this started, the lines were clear. She wasn't a heartbroken victim in a sad love story. She was an adult who'd broken into a life that wasn't hers anymore, and I was a man who finally stopped cushioning her from what that meant. If it had just been the affair, it probably would have stayed small. People cheat every day and the world shrugs. But breaking into the house, tearing it apart, getting hauled out in cuffs, that turned everything into public property. The footage hit the neighborhood page first. Someone screenshotted it, cropped my address out, and posted it like a soap opera teaser. Local woman loses it at ex's house. With crying emojis, popcorn emojis, the usual garbage. From there it spread. People clipped the best parts, her ripping up the garden, screaming in the living room, getting walked out by police. They added soundtracks, captions, and jokes. Half the comments didn't even know who she was. They just saw a crazy ex-wife and ran with it. I stayed quiet at first. Let them guess. Let them write their own stories. Then I saw the first version of her narrative show up in a mutual friend's comment thread. He threw her out with no warning. She's been struggling. He's moved on like she never existed. Same script, new platform. That's when I decided to speak once. I made a single post. No long rant, no name-calling. Just facts and screenshots. The investigator's report with redacted details, the timestamps, the hotel, the messages between her and Mark that had come out during the legal process. A short caption. Before anyone decides who the victim is, here's the context. That was it. I didn't reply to the comments. I didn't argue. I just posted the truth and let it sit there. People adjusted fast. Sympathy dried up. Pity turned into distance. Old co-workers of hers stopped liking her posts. Friends she'd known for years went quiet. It's amazing how fast loyalty evaporates once receipts hit the table. Then HR got involved. Her company couldn't ignore it. Their employee trending locally, first for an affair with her boss on company time, then for a very public meltdown and arrest? That's bad for brand image. They called her into an emergency meeting. I wasn't there, but I didn't need to be. I know how corporate works. Protect the logo first, the people second. The end result was simple. Terminated for misconduct and reputational damage. Mark didn't walk away clean either. His wife filed for divorce once she saw the same photos and videos. His name started popping up in the comments too. Clients didn't want to deal with the guy from that video. His company cut him loose under restructuring, or whatever language makes cowardice look professional. He disappeared from social media. Accounts gone, profile scrubbed. Just another ghost in the system. None of it made me happy. There was no rush seeing them fall. What I felt was closer to confirmation. Choices don't end when the moment does. They have a half-life. They keep working in the dark through HR emails, divorce papers, friend groups, job references, long after the last kiss in the parking lot. All I did was stop standing between their choices and their consequences. The rest took care of itself. It was months later when she showed up. New place, new street, new front door. I'd moved on in the most literal way. Different state, different job, different routines. Most people who knocked there were delivery guys or neighbors. That day, when I opened it, I found Linda Carter standing on my welcome mat. She looked smaller, older. The sharp, defensive woman I remembered had been sanded down into someone tired and frayed around the edges. She clutched a worn tote bag like it weighed more than it should. "Jason," she said. "No bite in it this time. Just exhaustion." I stepped aside. "You can say what you came to say right here." She hesitated, then nodded, staying on the porch. She opened the bag and pulled out a folder, a few envelopes, some of Kelly's documents, legal stuff, financial pieces that still had my name lingering on the edges. "She asked me to give you these," Linda said. "Close everything out." I took them. "All right." She didn't leave. "Kelly's not well," she said finally. "She barely leaves her room. No job, no friends. The internet won't let it go. She can't even get through interviews without people recognizing her name." I listened, neutral. "She's lost everything," Linda said, voice cracking. "Her marriage, her home, her career. She's paying for what she did. More than enough. I'm asking you, as her mother, to reconsider the charges. Drop them. Give her a chance to start over." There it was, the old pattern dressed in softer clothes. Protect her from the last thing that still had teeth, legal consequences. Part of me flashed back to the woman I met at 22, laughing over cheap drinks, making big plans. Another part remembered her on her knees in our kitchen, lying so fast she tripped over her own stories, and then later, tearing up the house I rebuilt without her. "Linda," I said quietly, "your daughter chose every step that got her here. I didn't push her into a hotel. I didn't tell her to come back and smash my house. I just stopped shielding her from the result." "She's not strong like you," Linda whispered. "She can't handle. She's not a child." I cut in. "And I'm done being the man everyone expects to absorb the damage." Silence sat between us. "I'm not going to court to fight her," I said. "But I'm not undoing any of it either. The law can decide what happens next. Not me. Not you." Her eyes filled, but she didn't argue. Maybe she finally understood. Or maybe she was just out of energy. She nodded once, slowly. "I hoped you'd be kinder," she said. "I am being kind," I answered. "To myself. For once." I handed her the empty tote bag. kept the documents, and gently closed the door. Not slammed. Not dramatic. Just closed. Some wounds don't need to be nursed. They need to scar so you remember exactly where you got them, and never walk back into the same fire expecting different heat. Revenge isn't always noise. Sometimes it's the exact opposite: no posts, no updates, no new chapter for anyone to gossip about. Just absence. After Linda left my porch, my decision was simple. I was done being a character in their story. No more calls. No more explanations. No more reacting. I changed my number first. Not out of anger, out of fatigue. The phone stopped buzzing with unknown calls and late night, "Can we talk?" messages. The silence felt heavy at first. Then it started to feel like peace. I sold the car next. The one she knew, the one that had been parked in front of every address we ever shared. New plates, new model. If she ever came looking, she'd be driving past a life that didn't leave breadcrumbs for her anymore. Social media went after that. I didn't deactivate with a dramatic goodbye. I just disappeared. No more tagged locations. No more mutual friends watching both sides like a tennis match. I turned into what she turned me into during the affair, an invisible factor. Only this time it was by my choice. The move to another state was the final cut. Different skyline, different grocery store, different gym. I rebuilt from the ground up. A home that only had my fingerprints on it. A job where no one knew my history. A routine that didn't include waiting for the door to open and wondering which version of her would walk through. I heard things through the distant rumor mill. Failed interviews. Therapy sessions she half committed to. People recognized her from that video and quietly passed. None of it brought satisfaction. Just a steady reminder that the fallout was hers to manage now. What she really lost wasn't the house or the car. She lost the one person who once saw her as more than her worst decisions. And that's a loss you don't fix with apologies or court documents. My revenge, if you want to call it that, ended up being simple. I stepped out of the story. I stopped defending myself, stopped fighting for a version of me she'd already betrayed, and let the truth sit there without my commentary. I moved forward. Not loudly. Not with a new woman on my arm or some victory parade. Just quietly, steadily, living a life that no longer had room for her chaos. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do isn't to win the war. It's to walk away from the battlefield, leave the wreckage where it lies, and never look back.
Subscribe and stay one step ahead of cheaters. And trust me, the next story makes this one look like a fairy tale.